I was a good kid. I was born in Deadwood, South Dakota. Is a mining area, so I grew up in a little mining town. Really from a young age, I enjoyed competition. My dad's brother had gone to the University of Colorado, played football there, and then played pro football for a little while. On one of our trips to visit my uncle in Boulder, we went down to Colorado Springs. We went to the Air Force Academy. It was just such an intriguing place. And so I always had it in the back of my mind that it'd be a wonderful place to go to school. I was not recruited for football by Air Force, but I was recruited by West Point. So I took a recruiting trip to West Point, and I thought, if I go to West Point, nobody's ever gonna come see me. Nobody's ever gonna come to a game. So then I became a lot more serious about the Air Force Academy. So I just competed for an appointment via the normal process. I wasn't very prepared for the first moments. Physically, for me, I actually enjoyed a lot of it. Long days, early mornings. It was a fun challenge, and I was really glad it was over. and as soon as basic cadet training stopped, really, football season began. And they made an announcement, and they said, anybody wanting to try out for the football team, go down to the field house at 1600 and weigh in. And they had a big recruited fullback from Nebraska named Russ Glover, and we were running meat grinder drills. 3 times in a row, I knocked Russ Glover on his backside. And Mo said, go get a white jersey. And I knew I had made the football team. Football was kind of a salvation because it was a time away from the rigors of cadet life and settling into something that wasn't really different than you'd done growing up. My senior year was kind of a traumatic year. We're playing Army, it's the 9th game my senior year. I hit a guy, I hit him in the chest. It was a clean hit, even by today's rules, and knocks him out, knocks me out. They use smelling salts, they get me up. I walk off the field, so I go back in the game. And I was in one play, and I took a hard first step, and it literally drew the breath out of me. It was like having the wind knocked out of you, but nobody had touched me. I knew something was wrong. All 3 vertebrae were more than 30% compressed. And between the injury time and then, they told me that I'd lost my pilot qualification. I don't really have any idea what I'm gonna do. I wasn't top of the class academically by any means, so I wasn't one of the people who was gonna go off to graduate school. 2 weeks before graduation, I had a medical board, and it lasted not much longer than 5 minutes. Cadet Kucera, you're gonna be disqualified from commissioning. Do you have any questions? I had lots of questions. I just don't think any of them were for them. So it was literally 2 weeks before graduation that I found out that I wasn't going to be commissioned. I felt like such an island. You look around, I had 800 and some classmates, and they were going to throw up their hats and go off and be Air Force officers, and I was going to throw up my hat, and that was the end for me. And I just really didn't even know what the civilian job market was. I just had never thought about it. So all of a sudden I had to. I went to cadet career counseling, and I said, look, I'm not going to be commissioned. Do you have anybody who can help me with that? And they said, well, no. But I signed up for this conference, and in one day I interviewed with 8 companies. I was interviewing for an engineering position. Nick says, okay, we're looking for sales engineers with mechanical engineering degrees. I had never considered a position in sales. They had an opening in Denver, and I started work June 15th for York in Denver. I was in the air conditioning business. I was in Denver for 2 years, and then they had fired everybody in Phoenix. The office here was very ineffective. They brought in a new manager. He came from LA. My wife went to work for Intel, and I just remember one day thinking, my wife's working for Intel. There's all this exciting, cool stuff going on in the world, and I'm in the air conditioning business. The interesting thing that happened then was that industry's needs changed what they needed from us, and it was the things they were developing that made those things possible. I'm in graduate school at ASU. I'm working full-time for York, and I get a call from the founder of Climate Tech, and he said, I'm going to retire on my 50th birthday and sail around the world. I need to find someone to sell this business to. And in late '83, I agreed that I would come to work for him with an agreement to buy the business. It really was the technology changes that started to open doors for us. We went from just being in the HVAC control business to being in the fire life safety business. Today, I feel like what we do is very impactful. The reality of what technology has done for us is allowing us to build much, much better buildings than we were building 40 years ago when I started. I never would have imagined that I'd have the career that I've had, that the doors would have opened that have, and really I don't think any of that happens without the Air Force Academy. I never stopped wanting to fly. It took me 30 years before I got to a point where I had enough time, enough resources, and enough reason, frankly. Started flying in March of 2008, had really kind of the freedom that goes along with having an airplane like that, including using it not just for business, but a lot of charity uses, a lot of the recruiting is something that came out of that. And I realized how impactful it was for them. Literally, they can see 2 to 2.5 times more kids if we can move them around with general aviation aircraft than if they're trying to do it commercially. For someone who loves to fly, it's almost selfish. You know, it's me getting to do something that I want to do, but in a way that's productive for them. There really weren't, I wouldn't say that there were many opportunities available to support the Academy, even if you wanted to. We didn't have an endowment, and of course now an Air Force Academy Foundation. I remember getting a call from a guy named Russ Laney. We're going to do what every university in the nation has done before us. We're going to go raise some private money, get some philanthropy to support programs at the Academy that the government doesn't support. I just said, you know, where else can we invest in America's future that's going to be any more effective than the Air Force Academy? I felt like if we had a country full of Air Force Academy graduates, that would be a good thing, and we should do everything we can to support them. A couple of the fellows who had also been involved with that campaign said, hey, here's what we're going to do. We still believe that there's a philanthropic need at the Academy. We've started this thing called the United States Air Force Academy Endowment. You know, to me, I thought it was a great model as a starting point, and it didn't take much to convince me to get involved. Our first major project is the Holiday Athletic Center. It was much, much more important than just the facility itself. I felt like all eyes were on us, especially the people who are most skeptical about whether or not the Air Force Academy should be doing fundraising. From my perspective, offering a matching gift to my class to raise money for that facility was a good cause that the class really got behind. Today in America, sports venues at college campuses are part of what makes kids choose to go there. When you're walking high school seniors through your facilities, it's part of their decision process. And I want to get them there as football players, but much, much more than that, I want to get them there for the opportunities that they're going to have as Air Force Academy graduates. For whatever reason they do make the decision to go there, they'll never look back and regret that. We started dating 2 weeks before I went to the Academy. We were supposed to get married right after graduation. I chickened out, called that off, and I had all these life-changing events going on. And she forgave me, and we got married a year later. I think we've been married, it was 40 years last year. Well, I think the fact that I wasn't commissioned makes me feel I have an even greater debt of gratitude to pay. I just look at it and I look at what I got from the Air Force Academy and what it gave me. And frankly, I'd feel pretty guilty if I wasn't giving back in as meaningful way as I can. It's very, very humbling to be included with this group of people. My dad has been in a VA hospice facility up in South Dakota since June. I had just gotten to the VA facility and Kathy McLean had called and she told me. And I don't really remember what I said, other than I was just silent. It was very emotional. And I'm fortunate to know many of the distinguished graduates. To be included in that group was a very humbling moment. And then to be there with my dad. So someone said, you deserve it. And I said, I don't know if anybody deserves this, but I do feel like I've done all I can to make a difference at the Air Force Academy, and I'm glad to have done so. It's been rewarding for me. It hasn't been a sacrifice. Anybody who gets to go to the Air Force Academy is tremendously blessed, and if you've been blessed in that way, you should do everything you can to be a blessing to others. In the civilian world, I think there's a lot written about servant leadership. In academy terms, we refer to it as service before self. That everybody works for me, it's that I work for them, and that I'm there to help them be successful. And I learned that very much at the academy as well, that what we accomplished as a team and supporting each other, helping each other be successful is very important.